Listen up, brother. The Denver Broncos are one step away from making a move that could blow up Twitter and split Broncos Country right down the middle. Brandin Cooks, that speedster who had Sean Payton drooling back in New Orleans, just got released by the Saints. And yes, everyone's freaking out on social media saying, sign him now. But is that really what we need with a 9-2 record? I'm Ben, a die-hard Broncos fan since day one, and today I'm going to show you why maybe, just maybe, we should bet on the guys who got us to the top of the AFC, because there's a detail about team culture that might completely change your opinion on this signing. And that detail? Man, that's what separates mediocre teams from true Super Bowl contenders. Stick with me till the end, because this story goes way beyond numbers and speed. You wake up on some random Tuesday in November 2024, grab your phone with your eyes still half closed, and boom, the news explodes on your timeline. Brandin Cooks released by the New Orleans Saints. That's right. The guy who ran the fastest 40-yard dash in that entire 2014 draft class at an impressive 4.33 seconds, the Biletnikoff Award winner at Oregon State. The receiver Sean Payton traded up in the draft to grab at 20th overall when he was with the Saints, one of the rare times Payton did that in his career. And now? Released? Free agent. Available to any NFL team willing to take a shot. The first reaction of any Broncos fan is obvious. Dude, Payton's known this guy since 2014. They won games together, had 6 seasons with over 600 receiving yards. It's obvious we have to sign him. Twitter exploded with this. Literally everyone posting, Broncos, don't let this pass. And I completely get the excitement. But let's slow down here, folks. Let's sit down, grab one of those strong coffees that only Denver knows how to make, and analyze this properly. Because when you have a 9-2 team that's literally leading the entire AFC, favored to win Super Bowl 2025 by the betting houses, you can't just mess with the pieces that are working on emotional impulse. This isn't fantasy football where you swap players every day. This is real life, and locker room chemistry matters more than any pretty stats on a spreadsheet. So let's get to the facts. Brandin Cooks is 32 years old. This 2024-2025 season, he played 10 games for the Saints, caught only 19 receptions for a measly 165 yards. 0 touchdowns. 0. Average of 8.7 yards per reception, which for a guy who used to be known as an elite speedster is concerning. He didn't hit any of his contract incentives, not in receptions, not in yards, not in touchdowns, not in playing time. And look, it's not like he was on a terrible team that didn't pass the ball. New Orleans has Chris Olave, had Rashid Shaheed before he was traded to the Seahawks at the deadline, and even then Cooks finished as the 5th option in the offense. 5th, man. Not exactly the profile of player you want to bring to a team competing for the 1st seed in the AFC playoffs. But then you tell me, Ben, the guy has experience, 6 seasons with over 1,000 receiving yards in his career. He's one of only 2 guys in NFL history to get over 1,000 yards in a season with 4 different teams, him and Brandon Marshall. And yes, you're right. Brandin Cooks' resume is undeniable. 729 receptions, 9,097 yards, 60 touchdowns over 12 seasons. Been through the Patriots, Rams, Texans, Cowboys, and Saints. Twice. The guy's seen a lot in this league. But, and there is always a but. This is the same Brandin Cooks who was released. Not traded. Released. He even asked to leave New Orleans because he knew he wasn't getting opportunities. According to insiders like Nick Underhill, Cooks and the Saints mutually agreed to part ways, and he even renegotiated his contract to facilitate the exit. When a veteran player has to do that, it's usually not a good sign. Let's be fair here. There are legitimate arguments for bringing Brandin Cooks to Denver, and there are quite a few. Man, Sean Payton loved this guy in New Orleans. So much that he traded picks to move up in the draft and get him. Peyton knows every move, every route, every tendency of Cooks. It's that chemistry you don't build overnight. When you have an offensive coach like Peyton who knows exactly how to use a player, that's worth gold. Remember what Peyton did with veteran players here in Denver? He brought 19 former players and coaches from New Orleans to our roster. That's not a coincidence. It's building culture based on trust and mutual knowledge. Marvin Mims was out for 2 games recently. Imagine if something happens to Cortland Sutton or Marvin again. Troy Franklin is still a developing rookie. Pat Bryant's having brilliant flashes, but he's still inconsistent. Having a veteran like Cooks on the bench ready to step in and contribute would be tremendous insurance, especially thinking about the playoffs where one injury can end your season in a single snap. Even at 32, Cooks still has that explosive acceleration. It's no accident he ran a 4.33 in the 40. Compare that to our current receivers. Marvin Mims is fast, but Cooks has that open field nastiness, that body control that comes from 12 years in the NFL. He knows how to read defenses, knows when to accelerate, when to break, when to make the safety bite on the fake. These are details that only experience brings. Look, the guy went through waivers. Any AFC team with a worse record than ours can grab him first. But if he clears and becomes a free agent, the Broncos can simply sign him to the practice squad, pay practically nothing, and promote him 3 times during the season if necessary. It's super low risk. If it works, great. If it doesn't work, you cut him without any headache. Bo Nix, our rookie quarterback, who's being considered one of the top 13 quarterbacks in the league by PFF, even with all those horrible incompletions he had early in the season, is still learning to read elite defenses. Having a guy like Cooks, who knows how to position himself, who knows every possible coverage, could accelerate Bo's development. It's like having a private tutor right there on the field. And I'm not going to lie, these arguments make sense. If you look purely at the logic of adding talent to the roster, Brandin Cooks seems like a no-risk choice. Twitter's full of analysts saying it would be stupid not to try. Some Denver Broncos news YouTube channels are already making videos speculating about him at Mile High, using team uniforms and clickbait thumbnails. But this is where the conversation gets interesting, folks. Because there's a side to this story that very few people are considering. And this side has everything to do with what really makes the 2024-2025 Denver Broncos special. Subscribe to the channel and hit the bell, because what's coming next will make you rethink everything about this possible signing. And it's something that would separate the Broncos from teams like the Cowboys and Raiders who are drowning in drama. Now comes the part that every Broncos fan needs to hear. And this comes straight from the mouth of Vance Joseph, our defensive coordinator, in a phenomenal interview he gave to Peter Schrager recently. If you haven't seen this interview yet, man, stop everything and watch it. It's mandatory. I'm leaving the link in the video notes. Vance Joseph talks about Nick Bonitto, our linebacker who might very well be the best pass rusher in all of football right now. Yes, you read that right. Better than Max Crosby, better than Micah Parsons. And those aren't my words. Those are Vance Joseph's own words. But you know what Nick Bonitto's best quality is, according to Vance? It's not speed. It's not technique. It's not absurd athleticism. It's selflessness. The guy is completely selfless. He prioritizes the team above everything, above his individual stats, above personal glory, above anything. Vance explains, when the Broncos face mobile quarterbacks like Patrick Mahomes, Jalen Hurts, or Justin Herbert, they use a strategy called cage rush. Essentially, you pressure the quarterback in a controlled way without leaving holes to the sides, forcing him to stay trapped in the pocket. It's disciplined pressure, and that means many times Nick Bonitto has to hold back, can't just explode toward the QB, because otherwise he opens up space on the sides. Vance said literally, if Nick Bonitto played like Max Crosby or any other guy who cares about individual stats, he'd have double the sacks he has now. But he's so selfless that what matters to him is that others do well and that the defense succeeds. Let that marinate in your head for a second. The team's best pass rusher deliberately gives up personal numbers for the collective to work better. This is extremely rare in the modern NFL, where every player is eyeing their next contract, the stats that'll put them in the spotlight in the market. And then Vance closes with a phrase that's pure truth. When you have a culture like that, you don't do anything that could harm it. It's a very fine line to walk. This, my friends, is what separates the 2024-2025 Denver Broncos from teams like the Cowboys and Raiders that you saw last Monday night. Guys getting suspended, guys partying in Las Vegas the night before the game while the team gets crushed. CeeDee Lamb and George Pickens watching from the bench because they got punished. Horrible body language, blatant selfishness. Compare that to what happens here in Denver. Marvin Mims doesn't get a single ball in an entire game, and the guy celebrates louder when Courtland Sutton catches a touchdown than if it were him. Pat Bryant comes in as the fifth option and celebrates every first down like it's the Super Bowl final. Courtland Sutton, who could be complaining about targets, is being the emotional leader of the offense and mentoring the rookies. Evan Ingram, our veteran tight end, said in a post-game press conference recently something that gave me chills. I've been through many places and many locker rooms in the NFL. There's something incredibly special about this Broncos team. And he's not exaggerating. This culture doesn't appear magically. It's built brick by brick, day after day. With every roster decision, every signing, every locker room conversation, Sean Payton knows this. George Payton, our GM, knows this. That's why they're extremely careful about who they bring here. It's not just about talent. It's about cultural fit. It's about guys who buy into the idea of team above all. And that's why, folks, I have my reservations about bringing Brandin Cooks, not because he's a bad player, not because he doesn't have talent, but because his trajectory shows a pattern. 5 teams in 12 years. 5, man. He's never stayed more than 3 consecutive seasons anywhere. The Patriots traded him. The Rams traded him. The Texans traded him. The Cowboys let him walk. The Saints now released him for the second time. Is it always everyone else's fault? Or is there something in his profile that doesn't fit in long-term locker rooms? I don't know. I'm not saying he's a bad apple or a locker room problem. Absolutely not. But there's a difference between good guy who doesn't cause problems and guy who buys 100% into team culture and puts the collective above himself. Let's talk about context. Context matters, and a lot. The Denver Broncos are 9-2, leading the AFC West with a 2-game advantage over the Chargers. We're literally the first seed of the entire AFC right now, Super Bowl favorites in the odds. We have the 5th best defense in the league, according to NFL Power Rankings. Bo Nix, even with all the incompletions, he's the QB with the most incompletions in the league, by the way, is already considered top 13 by PFF and is improving game after game. And you know what's most incredible? We're doing all this with young receivers developing. Troy Franklin, our rookie, is the youngest player on the entire roster, and at the same time, the receiver with the most passes thrown in his direction. This isn't luck. This is Sean Payton developing talent. Marvin Mims, when he's healthy, is a pure threat. The guy has speed from another planet. Pat Bryant had games with 5 receptions for 82 yards against the Chiefs, leading all receivers in a crucial game. Courtland Sutton continues to be the reliable rock we need. So tell me, why mess with this? Why risk bringing in a 32-year-old veteran who might take snaps and targets from these guys who are growing, who are building chemistry with Bo Nix, who are buying into the culture that Vance Joseph and Sean Payton are building? Oh, but what if someone gets hurt? Dude, if someone gets hurt, we promote someone from the practice squad. We have hungry young guys waiting for an opportunity. And yes, maybe these guys don't have the name or resume of Brandin Cooks, but I'd bet anything they'll play with a fire and dedication to the team that's worth more than 6 1,000-yard seasons. And there's another crucial detail that many people are ignoring: the waiver wire. The Broncos are last in line in the AFC to pick up released players because we have the best record in the conference. So, basically all the other 15 AFC teams would have to pass on Cooks before we get to him. Chiefs, Bills, Ravens, Steelers, Chargers, Texans, all these teams have priority. If none of them want Cooks, doesn't that tell you something? If teams that need receivers aren't grabbing him, maybe they know something we don't. And even if he clears and becomes a free agent, then the Broncos could talk to him, put him on the practice squad, have him as an emergency option. That? I wouldn't mind that. It's low risk, theoretical high reward. You're not taking anything away from anyone. Just have him there in case you need him. But signing him directly to the active roster, taking snaps from Marvin Mims, Pat Bryant, Troy Franklin, man, that would be crazy. It would throw away all the development we've achieved so far. Let's do an exercise here. Let's compare Brandin Cooks' profile with the profile of our current receivers, not just in terms of numbers, but in terms of fit with what Sean Payton wants to do. Marvin Mims, 23 years old, absurd speed, probably faster than Cooks in a straight line nowadays, still developing root skills, but with astronomical upside. Bought 100% into team culture, celebrates collective victories, zero ego. Pat Bryant, undrafted player who's getting an opportunity and making the most of every second, does everything they ask of him. Special teams? He's there. Blocking? He's there. Short routes? Deep ball? He's there. This is the type of guy Sean Payton loves. Versatile, hard-working, team first. Troy Franklin, the youngest guy on the entire team. 21 years old, learning from Courtland Sutton every day, has excellent hands, needs to improve on separation, but the potential is huge. And most importantly, he's here, developing real chemistry with Bo Nix. They train together, study film together, build timing together. You can't buy this. You build this. Courtland Sutton, 29 years old, veteran, leader, reliable. This is the guy you want on your team when things get tense. He's already proven 1,000 times that he puts the team first. In fact, according to insiders, Courtland is one of the most important guys in the locker room for maintaining healthy culture. Now put Brandin Cooks in this equation. Does he have more experience? Yes. Does he have a better resume? Without a doubt. But does he bring something that these guys don't bring? Honestly, no. He's not faster than Mims, not more reliable than Sutton, doesn't have more upside than Franklin, not more hard-working than Bryant. And there's another point, locker room dynamics. When you bring in a 32-year-old veteran with a big name, even if he's not a diva, there's a natural shift in the hierarchy. Younger guys might start thinking, man, I'm doing everything right, and they still brought someone from outside. This can create insecurity, can create tension, even if subtle. And insecurity? Tension? These are cracks in the foundation. And when you have a cultural foundation as solid as the 2024-2025 Broncos, you don't risk any cracks. Not for Brandin Cooks, not for anyone. Leave it in the comments. Do you think the Broncos should sign Brandin Cooks or keep the current roster? I'm really curious to know what you guys think about this. You know what's funny? We see teams like the Cowboys who paid fortunes to C.D. Lamb and Dak Prescott, but the locker room is chaos. See the Raiders with Antonio Pierce trying to hold together a team that seems to always be fighting internally. See the Bears with Caleb Williams having horrible body language when things don't go his way. And then you look at the Broncos, and man, it's different, completely different. When Bo Nix has a tough game, the receivers gather around him on the sideline, talk, support. When the defense makes a mistake, the offense responds on the next drive as if saying, "We got you covered, brother." When a team leader makes a mistake, nobody points fingers. Everyone takes collective responsibility. This doesn't happen by accident. This is the result of smart signings, strong leadership, coaches who understand that football is a team sport, not about individual stars. Yes, you need talent. But talent without chemistry is like having an F1 car without gas. Looks pretty, but won't go anywhere. And look at our defensive statistics. We're among the top 5 in the league in virtually all important metrics. Sacks, top 5. Tackles for loss, top 5. Forced turnovers, top 5. And this is with guys like Nick Bonito deliberately giving up personal statistics for the good of the collective. If this isn't proof that culture matters more than anything, I don't know what is. Another point that needs to be said: Sean Payton spoke openly at the beginning of the season that the Broncos would go to the Super Bowl. Many people laughed, thought it was arrogance. But man, look where we are now, 9-2, first seed. Winning ugly games, winning pretty games, winning every which way. We only lost to the Seahawks and to those guys. This is a Super Bowl team. And Payton built this not by bringing in big names from outside at every problem. He built this by developing the guys who were already here, bringing pieces that fit with the culture, being patient with Bo Nix even when everyone said the draft pick was a mistake. Payton trusts the process, and the process is working. So why the hell would we change now? Why risk messing with a winning formula just because a known name became available? That's fantasy football thinking, not real team building. Look, I know it's tempting. Brandin Cooks is a name that draws attention. His history with Sean Payton is real. The speed is still there, sort of. And yes, on paper, adding depth is never bad. But football isn't played on paper, man. If it were, the Cowboys would be champions every year with the talent they have. The Giants wouldn't be a disaster with all the draft picks they've spent. The Raiders wouldn't be sinking with all the veterans they brought in. Football is played on the field, and in the locker room, and in the film room, and in practice, and in 1,000 small moments that build trust, chemistry, brotherhood. The Denver Broncos have that, they really do. And that's rare. So my opinion, let Brandin Cooks pass. If he becomes a free agent and wants to come to the practice squad on a minimum contract, no guarantees, as an emergency option, fine, no problem. But putting him on the active roster, taking development minutes from Marvin Mims, Troy Franklin, Pat Bryant, no. 1,000 times no. These guys got us to 9-2. These guys put us as Super Bowl favorites. These guys bought into the culture Vance Joseph talked about. These guys bled orange and blue. And you know something? I'd bet my Broncos jersey that we're going to the Super Bowl without Brandin Cooks. Because we have something much more valuable than a 32-year-old veteran. We have a team. A real team. We, Broncos fans, have a lot to believe in. Bo Nix will only get better. Our defense is a wall. Our running game with J.K. Dobbins is flying. Special teams with Will Lutz is too clutch. And most importantly, this locker room is united, is strong, is special. So the question for you, Broncos Country, do you really think we need Brandin Cooks? Or are you with me in believing we already have everything we need to hoist the Lombardi Trophy for the 4th time in this franchise's history? Comment down below. Share this video with other Broncos fans. And subscribe to the channel because every week there's deep analysis, no BS, just truth about our team. Broncos Country, go Broncos!